welcome to Let's Talk Diz, a show that gives you everything you need to know to help make your Disney vacation as magical as can be in just about 20 minutes. I'm your host, Jeff Coviello. With me each week is Disney Master Sandy from Easy Diz by Instant Impressions Travel Services. Sandy, how you doing this week?
I am great. I am just off another trip to Disneyland, which we all know is a first love of mine. So what could be bad?
Well, I don't know if it could be bad, but we're going to give the listener a little bit of a heads up. While you were there on property, you went to talk about what we're going to talk about tonight, which is the Villas at Disneyland Hotel opening. And sometimes, we try to be around that 20-minute mark, and you texted me the second that you got on proper, and you said, there's no way this show is going to be 20 minutes. So for those folks that do like to take us all at one shot, this might be a two-parter for you. We're going to do this in one show, and we're going to try to get as close to 20 as possible.
I debated telling you we're going to have to divide it into two shows because I loved the resort so much and I have so much to say, but decided that we need to make it in one. So I'm going to do it, but please email us questions after, drop some comments on our Facebook page. We'll fill in any blanks that we leave out. So
this is being called the Villas at Disneyland Hotel, correct?
That is correct.
All right. Give us some information. When did it open?
It opened officially Thursday night, September 28th, and it is an add-on like we've seen in some other DVC properties. So the Disneyland Hotel we know is an original, and now it has 3 towers. This made for the 4th tower. It is all its own building and all DVC all the time. And they hit it out of the park with this one.
You mentioned DVC, so I'm going to get this right out of the way immediately because everybody knows anytime that we talk about Disney Vacation Club here on this show, we talk about our friends over at dvcnews.com. So for more than a decade, DVC News has provided the latest news and information regarding the Disney Vacation Club timeshare program and its member resorts. Visit them at dvcnews.com where you can sign up for their email newsletter or look for them at facebook.com/DVC News or twitter.com/DVC News. Tell us about it. Where do you want to begin?
And I will also just say, kind of to get it out of the way,
sure.
DVC is the Disney Vacation Club.
Yes.
It's a timeshare membership. And believe it or not, I have been a DVC member longer than I have owned the agency, certainly longer than the years we've been podcasting. But one of the great things to know about these DVC resorts is that members can stay there, but also anybody can book these resorts through their travel agent. So don't get turned off right away saying, oh, I'm not a member, I don't need to know about the villas, because you're going to want to know about this resort.
Tell us about it. Where do you want to begin?
I'm going to begin in an unusual spot, but it was really a highlight for me and a real favorite.
Okay.
And it is the kids' splash pad.
Huh.
I'm not sure if it was just the combination of elements or the theming of it, but Steamboat Willie, this big boat with Mickey at the wheel that has 3 little funnels, and one is a horn that will actually toot. 2 of them literally have steam that come out at timed intervals. It is a splash pad, as I said. So lots of colored lights that blink and change, and that is where the water shoots up. The kids were having a blast, and equal fun at day, probably maybe even a little more fun at night because those color lights really pop. But what a fun focal point to the pool section. And I would also say that probably about 50% of the resort rooms look right onto the pool and that splash pad. So a real anchor to everything.
Well, and I love that it's Steamboat Willie. That's the Disney nerd in you and I just popping that. Of course, it's Steamboat Willie. So that's really fun.
Big black and white boat, and then these color light pops.
Very
again
cool.
At night. Just fabulous.
All right, so why don't you take us into the resort? Like as we're walking in, let's do it right.
You know, I walked inside, and for those of you that have been on the Disney Wish, the very first thing I said is stage and color palette aside, I feel a little bit like I'm in the Disney Wish lobby because it was all about animation and the combination of elements and animation that got them to this story. So they had all these great little vignettes like you find in the Wish lobby, bringing together all of those Disney pieces and elements to tell the story. The lobby also has a phenomenal mural to it, similar to the one that we saw in Magic Kingdom many years ago that is no longer accessible. But it's kind of a big wavy wall, and as the wall moves and bends, it brings different Disney characters to light. So unusual. Disney tries really hard to keep every character in their correct background and setting and not mix things up too much. But this mural had lots of the stories, from old ones that we love, like Alice in Wonderland, to new ones like Frozen and Moana. And of course, hidden Mickeys in there.
Obviously, we're sticking with the animation theme as we're going in there. This is the home of where it all began. So it just seems like that's the story that makes total sense to be told here.
And it really is. And I think, honestly, you could spend hours and hours and hours taking in everything that they have and kind of really looking at it and studying it. One of the things that was super neat to see, that somehow in all of my Disney studio tours and Disney nerding, I never knew this, but if you look at pictures of this building, and please stop by our Facebook page, head over to our YouTube channel to get them. I really didn't quite understand the design in all the preliminary work we saw. There's two different spots that you see kind of all these stripes of color, and it's not a pattern of color. It's not repetition of color. It's this long, different pattern of color, and I couldn't quite figure out why. And I guess for people like me, they've now nicely labeled it. And when we talk about the rooms, you'll see all the influences. We'll talk about Frozen, Jungle Book, Mulan are some of their key focuses. And what I learned from one of the people doing the tours is that when they create a movie, they create this color palette. And it's a sampling of colors, top to bottom, 50, 60 colors in it. And then once the movie is created, they basically overlay that palette into it. So you'll see we've got a sample of the Frozen color palette, for example. And the first two colors on there are two different shades of purple, which I kind of thought, which came first, the chicken or the egg?
Right.
You look at them and you say, those are the colors in Anna's dress. Well, it wasn't that they were in Anna's dress and then they were on the color palette. The color palette was created. Therefore, that is the color of Anna's dress. And so if you go look at the outside of the building from top to bottom, you will see the Frozen color palette, the Jungle Book color palette, and the Mulan color palette. So very cool. And again, outside the building on the ground floor, they have a picture of the palette and then different images, different cells from the movie to show you how they create that palette. I just thought it was intriguing and stunning, and really, again, brought that understanding of the incredible amount of detail that goes into everything.
Yeah, and the synergy and stuff like that is right in our wheelhouse, you and me. Let's talk about the rooms. That anytime we do shows like this is really a major area of our focus. Give us as much information as you can about the rooms.
So it is a 12-story tower with 344 rooms total.
Okay.
And the resort has 3 towers already, 970 rooms total in there. So it's a little bit bigger than their other towers, and it's configured differently than their other towers. It's also, in my mind, a very unique DVC building. We're going to talk about lots of uniquenesses, and I'll use that word because some of them might be great. Some of them, we'll have to see. Time will tell what we think of them long term. Most of the rooms are in one tower, and then there's about a dozen rooms in their own building. Really kind of unique look that way. All of the rooms portrayed, again, this storytelling idea. So we go through a variety of themes. There's Princess and the Frog rooms, Sleeping Beauty rooms, my absolute favorite, again, going back to the beginning, a Fantasia story room. And I'm going to put these two out there and tell you all not to get excited or think you're getting these themes. There's a Frozen theme and a Moana theme. And I'm kind of surprised that they did both of those because the themes are specific to room category. And there are 2 grand villas in this resort. The grand villas are 3 bedrooms, sleeps 12, living room, dining room, lots of square footage. There are only 2 of them. So there is 1 Frozen room in this building and 1 Moana room.
So clearly we're just going to go stay back to back on both of them. I mean, that's the
maybe, you know, I have to say I was a little sad that they were booked because they are, again, 2-story grand villas, massive balconies, and I wanted a peek and I couldn't get in there.
But just to jump in there real quick, you know, to use a little bit of an industry term, like, you know, the inventory there with only 2 is incredibly small.
Correct. And again, even if you book one of those 2, it is not, kind of like we talk about all the time, bookable and non-bookable categories.
Right.
You don't know what you're getting. And it's why in some ways, while I have great appreciation for all of this attention to detail, they drive me a little cuckoo because we find it now on the Disney Wish and we're seeing it on the Disney Treasure where there are the different themings in the same category of rooms. And people are like, I don't want to stay in Cinderella. I only want this or I don't want that.
Yeah, it's impossible.
And they're not bookable categories. Right. And let's be honest, you know, if you wanted a Sleeping Beauty room, but you've got a Princess and the Frog room, they might be able to move you around. But like you said, when you're talking about inventory, there's 1 Frozen room and 1 Moana room.
Right.
So the chances that the other person is checking in on the same day as you and hasn't gotten there already, I don't know. I should ask my math major daughter, but the odds are pretty slim.
They're small. Yes, they're very small. But that's just the grand villas. What about the other rooms that they've got?
They've got duo studios, which is a new term for us. There are 38 of them. They are a sleeps 2 room. So similar to what we saw at Riviera Resort, where they have the Tower Studio. Nobody could tell me why they're named differently.
Yeah,
I'm not quite sure.
I was going to ask you the same thing because it does sound at first glance to be pretty identical, no?
It's definitely a different layout to the room, which may be why they renamed it. But I will tell you in all good faith that, again, my pictures probably made it to a dartboard somewhere with the number of people that I asked my list of questions to, and I just kept asking more people as I didn't get answers. But there are 38 duo studios. And again, that is an occupancy of 2, where normally so many of the hotels, you get that occupancy plus a child under 3. This is absolutely positively maximum of 2.
Right.
And, you know, it's a really compact room. And it has what we've seen in a lot of the DVC resorts now. That couch that has, you know, a nice picture on the wall behind it. And when you pull it down, you have that Murphy bed. So you don't feel like you're in a small room because the bed is only taking up the space when you're laying in it.
Right.
What I would say the biggest difference is for anybody who has stayed in a Tower Studio versus the Duo Studio. My one bit of disappointment in the Tower Studio is I think about 40% of the square footage of the room was dedicated to the bathroom, which just seemed excessive to me. So they've given a little bit more square footage to the room and taken some of the square footage out of the bathroom, still making it a very large bathroom. All of the Duo studios are Jungle Book themed. And again, the theming here is phenomenal. Every bed has a throw rug underneath it that is themed to the character for that room, as well as kind of right at the foot of your bed, but obviously on the floor, the key phrase from their title song. So great job with the theming. Also, behind the beds, there's what looks like a huge picture that's part of kind of your headboard. But at night, it has its own light, so it lights up beautifully.
That's cool.
again, I can't say enough about how well they theme these. And the duos do all have balconies.
That's cool. All right, so 38 of those rooms. You said 2 of the grand villas. We are nearing the category where we probably have the most of them, I'm imagining, just the deluxe studios, correct?
There are 253 deluxe studios.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And they are Princess and the Frog themed and Sleeping Beauty themed. They have standard view. And if you've been listening to our podcast for a while, you all know that I have a thing about views. And this resort is no different. I am not a fan of how they have categorized their rooms. I think it leads to a lot of people asking for different things, confirming things when they check in. I think we're going to see a year or two down the road that they recategorize these rooms.
Okay.
Because there's garden view, which translates to mostly view of a cast member parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's deluxe view. And the deluxe view could be a view of the Grand Californian and into California Adventure, which means that you're getting some aerial fireworks views at night from their show. Or it could be a view of the pool. Now, I did say I am normally not a fan of pool view. To me, that means a little bit of extra noise. But I was right on top of that splash pad. So I will say, probably the only time I didn't complain about a pool view. But again, those of you that really are into your view, and I do think in Disneyland, people do get back to their room earlier and spend more time in their room. So while I was in a deluxe, in that preferred view, and I mostly viewed the splash pad, I also viewed a roadway, and I will admit my ignorance here. I'm not sure if I was viewing air conditioner condensers, garbages, or what I was viewing, but it was definitely nothing that falls into the preferred category. And normally Disney does such a great job of hiding those things. But when you're in a 12-story building, if you look down, it doesn't have to be, right there for you to be able to see it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I loved in these rooms, this is one of the new features that they've been adding places that I love. I had Tiana themed. And so when I went to hang clothes in the closet, painted on the back wall of the closet were Tiana's clothes.
Which you clearly had with you. I mean, that was clear. You were upset that you were wearing the same thing that Tiana would be wearing.
If I have to match somebody.
There you go. You say deluxe studios, just for folks that aren't familiar, sleeping how many beds, etc.
So that's going to sleep 4. You've got the queen bed and a queen pull down. They really work to kind of reconfigure some of these. They've added these adorable little couches into all the rooms, which I really love. The one thing that leaves me puzzled, again, question nobody could seem to answer for me. They put in these compact little nightstands, which is great. I'm all for that because then you have more room in the actual floor plan. But they don't open. They have handles and they don't open. And they clearly, I confirmed, it's not the mine were stuck or broken or any of those things.
Yeah, no, it's just not part of what they do.
It's just not part of the functionality for some bizarre reason.
Got it. Okay, but still kitchenette like we've seen in some other properties?
Still the kitchenette, which means you've got a microwave, you've got a refrigerator, you've got a small sink. Again, great on the theming, but one of the odd things is they do in the studios here use actual china. So they'll do your dishes for you. They'll replace them whenever you want. But they went with these really retro style mugs that just don't work at all with the Keurig. They're too short. They don't hold a full cup of coffee. It was a challenge.
Coffee lovers are angry right now. But all right, so you've got we talked about the Grand Villa first, and then you've got the duo studios, the deluxe studios. We've got a couple of categories left. I know the 1-bedrooms are where I spend most of my time, so I'm assuming we've got 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom villas.
We've got 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom. I'm going to talk about the 2-bedroom first and kind of work my way backwards.
Okay.
Because a 2-bedroom can be what we call dedicated or lock off. And if it's dedicated, there's one door in and your room is your room.
Right.
If it's a lock off, it's actually a studio and a 1-bedroom put together. So you may stay in it as a 2-bedroom, or somebody may be in the studio and an unrelated family in the 1-bedroom. And then it's just like a hotel. It has a connecting door that you each lock and it stays closed, and it's going to have 2 doors from the outside. But it doesn't make a big difference. One of the things that they did in the 1-bedrooms this time is, and I am hearing myself sounding very fixated here, they dedicated a lot of space to the bathroom. 2 sinks, lots of counter space, really great for getting ready, but designed almost like a galley kitchen. So super efficient on the space, but lots of ability to have multiple people getting ready. Because again, while you're on vacation, that's not where you want to spend your time. You don't want to be waiting for other people to get ready because only one person could be in the bathroom at a time. 1-bedroom is going to sleep 5. It's going to have a king in the master, that pull-down Murphy bed queen that we just talked about in the living room, as well as a banquette. And again, we've got some different themes there, and it is just super cute and a great surprise to see all of that artwork.
What about the kitchen? Kitchen in both the 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom as we've become accustomed to?
Yes and no. Kitchen in both, but again, they've done a redesign that I love, because the kitchens in a lot of their original buildings, even though they don't have full walls, they're very clearly, this is the kitchen.
Right.
You know, they have a second counter, they've got islands, they've got things that really kind of claim that space as the kitchen. And while some people use it or might use it once, it's not the most used feature. So what they did with the kitchens here is they made them long but open. So they take up part of a wall and everything is on that wall. The refrigerator, the sink, the dishwasher, the microwave, the stove, it's all there. And above it are cabinets with your dishes, a beautiful open glass rack, really well themed, but again, designed to open up the room and give you more living space.
So you mentioned how many the 1-bedroom sleeps. Can you give us the 2-bedroom breakdown?
So the 2-bedroom is going to sleep 9. One of the things that these 2 bedrooms have, which is wonderful, is 3 full bathrooms. We usually see that the guests staying in the living room are sharing a bathroom with people. Maybe they've got a half bath. Most of the 2-bedroom villas in the other properties don't have 3 full baths. So again, I think it's convenient, depending who you're sharing that space with, it makes it easier to be shareable.
Sounds great. How about the sizes?
I arrived the day before the opening, and if you don't know this about resorts at Disney as well as the rides, cast members preview them before it's open to the public.
Right.
So they've been doing some previews. I was kind of trying to get a sneak peek of some of the opening things, and a cast member stopped me and said, "Can you actually see anything from there?" And we started talking, and I asked her if she got to do one of the trial stays, and she said, "No, I saw a picture and I didn't want to stay there because the rooms are small." And I thought, that's interesting, because I've looked at the floor plans, but I didn't think that. I'll reserve judgment. So I'm going to talk about the studios, because a studio is really most on par with a hotel room. The real difference, I think, between a studio and a resort room is that kitchenette as far as features and functionality.
Right.
And so on Disney property, the DVC studios, not counting the duos and the tower suites, range from 338 to a whopping 455 square feet at Hilton Head. But they average 360 square feet. That is what the absolute middle is, and several of them fall right there.
Okay.
These studios are 370, so they're a little bit larger than the average. But I figured out why she thinks they're small. Again, Disneyland Resort is old. It doesn't look it, but it obviously is old. Think of it like the contemporary at Walt Disney World, because we have the same issue at Walt Disney World. When they first built and they had all this space, they made their rooms really large.
Yeah.
Here's a fun fact if you didn't hear it before. Polynesian and contemporary rooms are larger than Grand Floridian rooms. The longer Disney has been in business, the more efficient they've made their rooms, the smaller the space. So that studio at the new Villas at Disneyland Hotel that would be on par with a regular resort room, that studio is 370 square feet, and the average resort room there is 415.
Got it.
So she's not wrong, but I will tell you that if you haven't stayed in the main part of the hotel before, I don't think you'll walk into these rooms and find them small or be disappointed in any way.
Okay. So if you're coming to us from Animal Kingdom Lodge, you're going to be like, wow, this is so spacious.
This is spacious. We're good.
You've got a couple other square footage here that we can just run through quickly. You know, the Duo.
The Duos are 250 square feet. And one of the things about these rooms, this is my little other pet peeve of why I think they're going to have to recategorize these rooms. Not all of the rooms have balconies. And I really thought about that a lot as I think about different hotels, chains that I stay at in different rooms. But DVC rooms have balconies or patios.
Yeah.
With the exception of one room at Wilderness Lodge. There's your fun fact for you. Less than 50% of these rooms have balconies, and I'm not quite sure I understand why that decision was made, but it was, and we'll live with that now. But there's no rhyme or reason to it. So there are 253 studios, and you may or may not have a balcony.
Got it. And
none of the studios, by the way, have bathtubs.
Okay. That's important to know, depending upon who you're traveling with. All right. Food? I mean, I know every time we talk about food in Disneyland, it's kind of like there's not really food at the resort hotel. So I'm assuming we're kind of in that same boat there.
The only food is delivery to the pool area.
Okay.
And that's from the quick service location. But they do have a lot of pool bar staff delivering not just drinks, but a full food menu. There will be a pool bar opening. It isn't quite done, but we expect to see it within the month. And so that'll add some other opportunities. But there is no food in the building itself. And I will also say one other unique thing. Every other DVC resort has what I call a mini grocery store in their gift shop.
Yes.
Somewhere that you can buy bread and cold cuts and peanut butter and jelly and frozen pizza and waffles and that type of thing. There is not anything like that here yet. But again, maybe they're moving away from that because Disneyland does typically have shorter stays. It is right in the middle of the heart of the city. And grocery delivery is certainly a big thing now.
You were talking about the pool. We talked about the splash pad. Anything else that we want to know about the pool specifically?
The pool has a lot of chairs, which is so nice to see. Everything from sit-up chairs, lounge chairs, tables and chairs. And then separating the pool from the splash pad is a great area of sit-up chairs with this wonderful, colorful canopy. So plenty of shade if you want it. And then a nice big hot tub in the corner, as well as bathrooms with only one shower if you're using that after checkout.
Any amenities on property that we should talk about?
There are. They've got a 24-hour gym. And again, I'm the wrong person for this. I am always shocked the number of people using a gym at Disney.
Yeah. Definitely. Listen, you got to get your swole on. That's how it works over there when you're.
I guess that's the trade-off for extra churros and Dole Whips.
Yeah, 100%. So you got the fitness center. What other things are there?
All the kind of DVC things you'd look for. You've got the laundry room and a huge laundry room, well set up with an automatic pay station and everything, and the Soap is there for you. 2 big barbecues out back. What they are missing, and I'm assuming it's coming, but again, nobody could confirm for me. There is no seating right by the barbecue area, but it's steps from the pool area. So you can definitely do that.
Okay.
And then they have an area called the Discovery Den. Part of their lobby is really just a relaxation area. While there will be a cast member there with an iPad who can help with things at peak times, the check-in for this resort and guest services for this resort is over in the main tower where everybody for the hotel checks in. It is not off by itself.
Okay, that's good to know. Aside from the balconies, what is missing from this particular resort?
There were 2 things that I looked for that, again, I'm going to be honest, they're not the make or break to my vacation. However, they're deluxe resort things, and they're things that people look for in DVC resorts. There is no pool slide here.
Uh-huh.
Now, you can use the main pools for the Disneyland Hotel, and they have that really cool monorail pool, which I'll be honest, when you step out of the Villas building, if you go left, you get to Steamboat Willie. If you go right, you get to the monorail slide. They're probably equidistant. And when I say equidistant, 90 seconds to your left or to your right. So
not far.
Not a slide on our pool, but not a big distance to walk.
Right.
And then the other missing thing to me was community hall. So they have this Discovery Den, which is a room with a beautiful fireplace in it and lots of lounging space. But there's no cast member there during the day, and there's no activities being run. There's no come sit with your child in color, come grab a board game. That's missing to me. And again, for people who vacation a little bit longer and vacation frequently at Disney, they do sometimes do a little bit more downtime at the resorts.
Yeah, I would say that is the type of thing that's made its way into my vacation. So it's important to know that if you're vacationers like we are. I know it's hard to believe because we've gone a little bit longer tonight, like I said we would. What haven't we covered tonight about this resort?
So I'll cover a little bit of a surprising statement first. And this applies to everybody, but the only people that are going to be majorly impacted by it are those Disney Vacation Club members staying on their points.
Okay.
Out in California, they have what they call transient occupancy tax. Kind of fancy way for saying special hotel tax.
Okay.
And normally as a DVC member, when you check in, you've paid for your points, you show up, you don't have a bill. We saw this first appear in Ulani, and it is now appearing here. So even though you're using your points, which you would think would have you paid in full, when you arrive, you do pay 12 to 12 and a half, whatever the current rate is, it just switched, of tax based on the cash value of your room. And the big question that I asked to the DVC folks is, I'm confused because I have stayed on points at the Grand Californian across the street, which is clearly a hotel in California, and I didn't pay transient tax. How come I'm not paying it across the street and I'm paying it here? The answer was pretty simple, and I apologize, or I thank those people who are members at Grand Californian for paying my tax for me. For Grand Californian DVC members, the transient tax is charged in with your dues. So if you use your points at Boardwalk, but you own a Grand Californian, you actually pay tax on a room you didn't stay in. So the decision was made for the new Villas at Disneyland Hotel that the tax really should be paid by the member who's using that space, not the member who owns that space.
And if you are not a DVC member, but you're staying there and you're paying cash, sorry about that.
You're going to pay that transient tax.
You're going to pay it anyway.
You're going to pay it whether you're in a villa or any hotel anywhere in California.
Okay. What else? What else haven't we covered?
I think the last kind of little highlight is one of the things I haven't noticed at any of the resorts. And again, Disney is always striving to be better and to help us be better about caring for our planet. Is I walked past 3 different water bottle refill stations. And so I think that goes a long way, especially in California. They are much more cautious about those things than we are in a lot of other places.
Well, Sandy, I thank you for taking the time because, as we know, from coast to coast, from sea to land, whatever it is, when Disney is launching something new, you are there. You are there to bring it to us so that for those of us that can't get there as it opens, we know what to expect when we can get there. I thank you for your expertise. And as always, I thank you for the time tonight. Have a great week.
You too.
And that's a wrap this week on Let's Talk Diz. If anyone you know could benefit from this or any show, please share, have them like and subscribe. And don't forget to reach out to the folks at Easy Diz by Instant Impressions Travel Services for any Disney destination planning. Make it a great week. And as always, keep making memories.